Alright, this is a little intro to the plant activity, which is meant to help kids get a little more conceptual understanding about negative exponents and why when we take a positive whole number to a negative power we actually end up with a fraction or a decimal. And the point of this activity was to lead kids into understanding negative exponents and help set up any work they might do with negative exponent scientific notation. So in the story, I bought a plant. When I'd owned the plant for 0 months, I know in the story it tells me it was 1 foot tall. I've set up a table here for months, the math I'm doing to figure out the height for any, the height in feet of the plant for any months I've owned the plant. I know in the story it tells me after 1 month the plant was 2 feet tall. Haven't really done any math there. At 2 months, I know that it's doubling in height, or at least I'm figuring that out from the pattern, and now it's 4 feet tall, doing 2 times 2. At 3 months, I'm noticing it's doubling, and it's 8 feet tall, and the math I'm doing is 2 times 2 times 2, or, I could also think of it as I'm just multiplying the last height by 2. And at 4 months, I'm doing 2 times 2 times 2, multiplied by an additional 2, and doubling the 8 to the 16. So now I might think about, if I want to skip ahead and think about how tall is my plant at 7 months, what math am I doing to figure that out? I'm noticing kids might be able to notice that you're always multiplying by another 2 for every given month, and that I multiply 2 by itself as many times as we have months. So in this case I'll do 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which doing it in my head I think gets me 128. So now at this point we might talk about how do you find the height of this crazy growing plant of mine for any number of months, and hopefully kids can land at that this is the height of the plant is equal to 2 raised to the power of months. So just once you know how many months there are, months since I've owned the plant, that's how many times I multiply 2 by itself. That's the power of 2. And the next thing I might think about is, what if I want to go back in time? So I know going forward a month, I would always multiply 2 and double the height. How do I find the height of my plant at 6 months since I owned it? Kids knowing that we're doubling to get to the next month might be able to figure out that we're dividing by 2 or multiplying by a half to get to the previous month, and that would give us 64 feet tall at 6 months. And if I continue to divide by 2 going back in time, it gets us 32 feet tall after 5 months. And that helps me figure out, to start to think about, what does this all mean here before I bought it? In the story it tells me that the plant had been alive a long time before I owned it. It was growing at the same rate before I bought it and had been alive for a long time. So what I want to think about now is how tall was it a month before I owned it? And so if kids have had a little practice dividing by 2 up here, now they should realize that, well, if it doubled to get to 1 feet tall, I'll divide by 2 or multiply by a half, and I realized that it was a half a foot tall a month before I bought it. And if we do that again, I know it was a fourth of a foot tall 2 months before I bought it. And so what numbers do we put on here to think about what number of months that was? If forward in time since I owned it were, positive 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, it would make sense that we could use negative values to show the number of months before I owned it. So here I'll have -1, -2, and I'll have -3. And so if I start to think about, well, what does this mean? Kids might start to realize, well, 1 month before I owned the plant was a half a foot tall. 2 to the -1 power is a half. 2 to the -2 is a fourth. 2 to the -3, or 3 months before he bought the plant, growing at that same rate, the plant must have been 1/8 of a foot tall. So the point here is to let kids reason a little bit through repeated computation, develop the rule, figure out how to work backwards, and then break into the negative exponents. And the later part of the activity has kids work with powers of 10 in a beanstalk context.